Hey everybody, this is the Dewey Decibel System. We think we have a pretty cool name.
Decibel.
This is the Decibel, the Dewey Decibel System. This is a podcast where we talk about stuff. We're excited to be here with you. I'm Brandon.
I'm April.
And I am Cece.
I went out of order.
You might not have. I think I did.
I don't know. It doesn't matter.
The cool thing is there is no order.
Right
Yeah.
on, right.
And this is what you're going to get, this whole kind of thing.
So for those of you who are left.
Apologies to the rest.
This should be fun.
Basically, for the first episode, we're just going to talk about stuff, and probably on other episodes as well. So I thought the best way to start out a podcast called the Dewey Decibel System was to talk about the Dewey Decimal System.
Aha. Aha.
And I would just say, too, whenever, I'm at a party and meeting new people or whatever, and it's the inevitable, so what do you do? And I tell them, I work in a library. I'm an actual librarian. They're like, oh, man, how about that Dewey Decimal System? And, it's always funny to me that that's the first thing that they say, because I don't really think about Dewey a lot. I mean, do you all think about Dewey every day?
Very irregularly at best.
I'll just say no.
No. Well, I mean, we learned about it when I was in school. Not much, though. So I researched a little bit more. And basically, for those of you who are dying to know what it is, the Dewey Decimal System was invented by Melville Dewey in 1876. It's been revised 23 times with the latest version in 2011.
Okay.
Wow.
And it's the way that we organize books. One interesting thing that I found out is that previously, books were only organized in the order that they were acquired.
Oh.
So can you imagine trying to find something?
At home.
Right. But like,
Whoa.
we have, so many books in our, collection. I can't imagine trying to find something,
Oh my God.
because, that's just, my brain can't even
Well, I reckon
that.
I brought it in last February. It was about 4 o'clock.
Right,
Full
and like, where
moon
would
was
we
out.
reshelve stuff? Would we reshelve it in the order that it was returned?
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah. Oh my God.
So,
I can
yeah.
only imagine.
Yeah.
I know.
Ooh.
So
That would be-
the cool thing about the Dewey system is that everything is organized by the subject matter, but not just the subject matter, but how we interact with it. So like clothing, all right? Clothing is found in like 3 different spots. Fashion design, customs clothing, things like that. So it's not just, it's a really intricate system. Kind of the non-boring things I found out. about Dewey.
Okay. Non-boring things.
I forgot
I remember learning about this in school, and I was like, I can't.
Same
even.
for me.
This is boring. This is too boring.
Well,
Or
the
like-
good thing is when someone asks me at a party what I do and we talk about Dewey, I don't talk about this.
Okay,
Because
good.
otherwise they would just walk right
Oh,
away.
So this is like the Dewey stuff. All right.
So I kind of forgot what a controversial figure Melville Dewey is. One thing that I remember about him, though, is that he changed his name for a period of time so that it would not have redundant letters in it.
Whoa, okay.
So, like, originally his name was Melville, Melville. He changed it to Melville.
Whoa.
Dewey, at one time, he changed from Dewey to Dui.
That's cool.
Dewey.
I like,
Just
I like
because
that.
he did not like redundant letters.
That's cool.
Dewey.
I think that tells you a lot that you need to know about this.
So
dude.
he was
Wow.
in the mid 1800s. Is that right?
Late 1800s.
Late 1800s.
Yeah, I don't know when the name change took place.
Well, it's such
but
a super hipster thing to do. I was just
Right,
curious
right.
about the
yeah,
century.
that's a really good point.
Right.
He's like the Cher of.
Right on. Right on. What is Cher's last name?
Does Cher have last
Right.
Actually, wait,
Mark
what is
already-
Cher's last
Mark
name?
is already. Mark is our sound guy. He's a
Yeah.
long-suffering, very patient
Yeah,
person.
he's already
So
shaking his
patient.
head.
He's already shaking his
But
head.
hey, P.S. though, what is Cher's last name?
I don't.
Well, it was
I-
Bono for a while.
Well, sure,
Right.
but like, what's her?
Googling it now.
What's Madonna's
Please, yeah.
last name? What's Sinbad's
Well,
last
Madonna's
name?
last name is like Ciccone or something.
Okay, I think that's true.
Right.
Now that you say it,
But I don't know Cher's last name.
I don't either.
If it's Dewey, DUI, I'm just going to laugh for the rest of my life.
This will become the most popular podcast on the internet waves.
I don't even know how to say that.
Is it DUI, Dewey?
No, it is not. It's a lot more letters than that. There are some redundant ones in there.
Sarkeesian.
Sherilyn
Oh.
Sarkeesian. Her name's
Sarkeesian.
Sherilyn Sarkeesian.
I never knew
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
I did not.
I mean, I never thought that Cher needed a last name.
Well, she does.
I don't know for
But
sure.
like even at birth, you
Right.
know, it's
Right.
like
Right.
why
This is Cher.
give this child a last name?
Do you
Right.
believe in life after why?
No, there is.
Anyway,
no life after
let's talk about Dewey some more after
Oh, yeah,
that.
back on topic.
So
There are a few people who are left
back
after
to him.
that
I know,
now.
right? So back to him kind of being a controversial figure. He helped found the American Library Association, which is the ALA. He got shunned from the ALA for making unwelcome advances to fellow, women.
Take it easy,
From the
DUI.
LA,
Take
yeah.
it easy.
So, and I remember hearing about this in school, but yeah, I mean, he was kind of a womanizer,
Okay.
and women did not like him. Women did not like
Well,
to work for him.
With last
He
name
had-
like DUI.
Right,
True.
exactly.
I'm
True.
just saying. Sorry to everyone
Pumped
out
in
there.
brakes,
whose name is
DUI. Pumped in brakes.
He was also a bit of an anti-Semite.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
He
God.
belonged to
Wow.
this club. He was the state librarian in New York,
Okay,
and
good, not Kentucky.
no. And there was a letter written to the Board of Regents asking for them to fire him because he belonged to this club, and he helped form policy in this club that didn't allow basically anyone that wasn't a white person of Christian faith. So he did not get fired, but they publicly rebuked him, and he resigned the following year.
Wow.
So it's just interesting that this kind of not so great man,
Wow.
Well, you know,
but his
yeah.
classification system lasts today.
that was his contribution. A very
I guess.
confusing system.
Hmm.
Well,
Actually, it's not that confusing once you actually do.
once
learn
you,
it.
yeah, and I mean, I always say that it's more for us.
Mhm.
Because if someone's looking for something specific, we can easily find it.
Mhm.
I don't
Mhm.
like to browse Dewey very much. I know like the most, 641, which is the cookbooks. I mean,
Mhm.
that's
Nice.
pretty good to browse. Some library systems have gone away from Dewey, and they've gone to how bookstores set up their
Right on.
shelves.
Right on.
But at the end of the day, it's all kind of the same thing
Yeah.
because it's by the subject.
Yeah, it's
Right.
just helping
So-
you find it.
Right.
And that's
right.
all it's for.
Right.
Something I like about the Dewey Decimal System, as I understand it, and listeners should know that I'm not a librarian by like trade. I didn't study librarianism or librarianship.
Librarianship, I think is the right word. Librarianism.
Too many isms in this world.
I, for one, paid good money to.
Yeah, I know you did. Right.
I
yeah.
stumbled into
Librarianism.
it too, like Brandon.
Right, yeah, I tripped
stumbled
over.
into it,
I
but
tripped over
love
my
it.
own 2 feet and fell into John DUI. That's kind of how it happened in my life. But I've done a lot of learning. I've done a lot of learning, and
We're all
something
going
that
to change our names
Yeah,
to
for sure.
non-redundant.
Brandon.
Hello, Brandon
So-
Dewey. Uncle Dewey.
Actually, I
Dewey.
did change mine. CC.
It's true.
Well, that's
Yeah.
2 letters.
You're
You're so-
Dewey would not like
You're
you.
so
No.
18th
Melville-
It should
century
just be
hipster.
C.
You're so hipster. See.
So hipster.
So I like how the Dewey Decimal System is so versatile and adaptable. And what I mean by that is, like, it seems to me like, and I could be wrong, but it seems to me like when it was born or when it was created to be adaptable to like evolving, like ethos, not mythos. April, you're going to talk about mythos, maybe. Ethos. What I mean by that is like the
Actually, I'm not
the
gonna talk about
subgenre transpersonal psychology. This is a
Mhm.
personal interest of mine. Surely didn't exist in the late 1800s. It exists now. And then, so therefore later had to be classified, right?
Yeah, well, and that kind of brings me to my next point. I don't know if Dewey himself thought that far ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I can't speak to that. I don't know him.
Right.
Well,
Um,
like
but-
He doesn't call you at
1800s,
home.
I mean, we've got whole sections on computers and technology that didn't exist. Back
Sure,
then.
right.
It had to be
Exactly.
adapted
That's
to
the
that.
Right.
updates.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's had to have been. I mean, we said what 23 times in the past
It's
100
20
years.
something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
50 years.
But it's done that, and that's impressive to me. I think that's really cool.
So
how it's
I
been able to
asked
grow.
our tech services manager, because we have here at MCPL, I mean, we circulate so many things that are not books.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked her, Terry, who's our tech services manager, she catalogs everything along with her department. So I said, we obviously use Dewey for our nonfiction section. And all fiction books also have a Dewey number in the catalog record, but we don't shelve them that way. It's just there for OCLC reasons. But do
OCLC is library speak.
Yeah, sorry.
Just ignore it.
Strike that. Reverse it.
Moving on.
CLCO.
Snozberries, go.
So I said, what about DVDs, right? Like we've had DVDs forever.
Right.
Do we use Dewey for that? How about video games? Do we use Dewey for that? And she said there's a Dewey number in almost everything. You can look into a record for anything that we circ, and there's probably going to be a Dewey number in the field somewhere. So, yeah, it is pretty remarkable that, to me, what was maybe a rigid system at first has evolved a lot and has a lot of space to evolve and has a lot of space to change and strike things that don't make sense anymore and, add things that do.
I think that's indicative of a system that works, for that versatility. I like it.
Yeah.
I'm in favor of John DUI's categorization system.
Who is John DUI? Are you talking about Melville?
Oh, Melville. Melville.
I almost called him Melvin earlier. It was like Melvin Dewey. Wait, what is his name?
We can't get
Listen,
his first
this
name
man tried
right.
so hard to make his name easier for you, and you're calling him John.
Sorry, I got stuck on Dewey. Dewey.
Melville something.
Melville.
That guy.
I would love
It
to
is
meet
Melville.
John Dewey, though, DUI.
I wonder if there's a person like that.
There was a
There probably
historical
is.
individual named John Dewey, but I don't know what he did.
Is it John Dewey DUI?
What he dooed.
What he
What did
oh
Dewey?
my
What
gosh.
don't know.
did what did Dewey do?
What he did.
Oh, jeez, all the jokes.
Okay, all the jokes.
Wait, I'm going to look up John Dewey, though.
All right,
I'm-
but
yeah.
moving on to video games.
I
While
would
she does
love
that.
to talk about video games. Yeah, cool. While we Google John Dewey, who may or may not have ever been a
Actually-
real person.
Is it a real person?
There's a John Dewey, but it's the redundant spelling. DEWEY.
Oh yeah. So the bad
He's an
spelling.
American
Ooh.
philosopher, psychologist, and
That's
educational
how I know
reformer.
him. I studied him in all my
What
pretentious
is it with the Deweys?
college
I don't
classes.
know.
Yeah, I know for sure.
What's really
the
funny
Deweys?
is also a story pops up in wake of Tiger Woods' DUI. John Daly offers Woods some advice. So
The Googles.
thank you
The Googles.
to the
Googles.
Google indexing
Google.
system.
You guys, I hope you're having fun. I'm having a good time.
I'm having a great time.
Good.
Who knew Dewey could be so fun?
Yeah,
Right?
for sure.
Not I.
I honestly don't know if video games are going to be even close to as fun as
I'm going to guess they are.
this topic has been. It's what I wanted to talk about. Hi, everybody. I'm Brandon. I'm a huge nerd for lots of different things. One of my biggest nerd things is video games. And you know what? I don't know exactly what I want to talk about. I'm curious what's going to come up, like April and Cece, like what your perspectives on gaming
I'm a
culture
mom
are.
of teenagers.
Right
I
on.
have no idea
Okay.
what video games are anymore.
So I had to share super quickly.
Yeah, please.
We have two NES, like 16-bit systems in our household. One of them is the original, like the box
from the
you know?
80s.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Nice.
The other one is one that you put the game in the top.
Oh.
It was
Okay.
their
Oh,
like
yeah, a
revamped
re-release.
version of
yeah,
the box.
right on.
Because I wore out
Nice.
my
Okay.
original system.
Awesome.
And my parents had to get me the new one.
What was your favorite game or games, or what did you wear out playing?
Dr. Mario. I
Dr.
liked a
Mario
lot.
was my
Dr.
mom's
Mario.
addiction.
Tetris I liked a lot.
I had to take Dr. Mario with me in my backpack to elementary school, or else my mom wouldn't get like the work done that she had to get done. She made me very
That's
regularly
hilarious.
You know
take
what?
Dr. Mario.
You know what?
That is a
I
true
completely
story.
understand that, though.
That is
I
a
would
true
do that.
story. She
I would
was
do that.
kind of a depressed
But the
housewife,
box doesn't work very well anymore. Like it still does, but you know how you have to take the game out and blow on it. And all
Uh-huh.
that.
Right.
So we have the box, and if the box doesn't work, we have the other one sitting on top of it.
Nice.
And I'm like, there has to be some like Jeff Foxworthy joke about.
There is a
you
Jeff
know,
Foxworthy joke.
I know
Very
there's one
similar.
about like the TV on top of the
Uh-huh,
TV,
that's right.
but
Yeah.
where's like
The
hipster
Nintendo on top
Jeff
of the
Foxworthy?
Nintendo.
Right.
Where you're
What did I
34
just
years old.
say? Nintendo on top of the Nintendo.
So growing up, we
Yeah.
had a Sega Genesis on top of a Nintendo on top of a TV on top of a TV that didn't work. That's another real story
Oh my god.
about
That's
my
a-
childhood.
That's an
Did
incredible
you
joke.
please tell me you had rabbit ears with foil on them too?
No, I was a little bit late for that. No, we had an antenna on the house, but anyway. So I remember I was born in the early '80s, and so I remember getting that first NES, Nintendo Entertainment System, for Christmas. I guess I must have been 5 or 6. I remember, I guess the morning of December 26th, right? So I spent all of Christmas Day just salivating, zombified in front of my Super Mario Brothers. And the next morning I woke up, And I swear to you guys, I'm 34 years old, and I haven't felt that emotion since December 26th, the morning. I just ran out of my bed. I got downstairs, and I couldn't figure out how to turn the system on because my parents had done it for me. And I sat by the TV and cried, like one would cry for a lover that had left. I remember this is all very true.
No, I get that 100%.
Until my parents heard me and woke up, and helped me to turn on my Nintendo, and thus began the saga of my life. Really. With video games.
Your life was changed that morning.
For sure. So I mean, yeah, I don't know what to say. I've been a gamer all my life. It's if I had half of the hours back that I put into video games, I probably would have spliced the atom by now, or been some far greater person than I actually am.
You know what though? I don't buy into the whole thing that video games hurt people.
Okay, let's talk about it.
I don't want to. That's a blanket statement I don't want to make.
Yeah.
I take it back. But I think that some video games are good for problem solving.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
for sure.
I mean, I've seen people who have zero focus in their lives. They sit there and they're able to actually focus on this one thing. Yeah. And I think that there are real positives that come out of playing video games.
I definitely think so. It's a good way. My son is a computer, video game, all that stuff fanatic, and I used to be into it, and then I had kids, and then. Sorry, Brandon.
It's okay. It's okay. I've played maybe 3 hours since my kid's been here. The past 10 months, maybe.
Yeah.
It's all okay,
now,
by the way. I love you,
we're
dear.
getting back into it now, but it's actually a way for where Alex and I, Alex is 15, he and I, as a way that he and I will bond because we both love first-person shooter games because they're just so much fun. Right. Serious Sam is one of our favorites, and it's just a shoot 'em up game, and we'll just put it on survival mode where you just see how long you can last.
Right.
And that's one of the ways that we bond, because Katie and I have theater and we do that together. But then Alex and I have video games. Yeah. And so we'll spend time doing that as a way that's just for him and I. My husband is terrible at first-person shooter games. I love to play on the opposite team of him on Star Wars Battlefront.
Do you remember the episode of The Office where they play?
Absolutely.
It's when
Call
Jim.
of Duty.
Yeah.
Right?
It's when Jim goes to the Stanford branch.
I don't think I've seen that episode.
And
I've
it's
not
when
seen all of them.
So Jim's at the Stanford branch, and what is Rashida Jones's name?
Oh, any other time.
Anyway,
Rashida Jones.
and Ed Helms is there too.
Yep.
Andy. Gosh, I couldn't remember his name
the
either.
amazing, ineffable.
But
Andy
yeah,
Bernard.
they're like staying late at the office playing Call of Duty, and Jim is so bad at it. Like
Carol Filippelli, not Carol. Karen
Thank you.
Filippelli. Sorry.
His
Big
like
Office fan.
person.
That's my soccer mom name.
His like person in Call of Duty is basically just like running into a wall
Yeah,
the
'cause he
entire
can't
time
play it, right?
because he cannot figure out how to like turn it around. Yeah,
That's me when we play split screen and I look at the wrong one. I'm like, why is it not? Because I look over at my screen and I'm like in a tunnel underneath something on my back. I don't even know. It's ridiculous.
Well, I think something that has happened surrounding video games over the course of, say, the past 25 to 30 years that I love to talk about just with people in my life when we're talking about stuff is like, you guys remember, like, video games were blamed, like Marilyn Manson.
Oh, absolutely.
Was blamed for his music and for cultural problems, big cultural problems like violence, gun violence, et cetera, et cetera. And what I'm absolutely not saying is that video games shouldn't be used in moderation like everything else, because of course they should be, right?
And there's definitely should be age limits.
I think
there
so
are
too,
some
definitely.
There's a rating system that was
they're very
introduced
real.
around that time.
There are some of the Grand Theft Auto games. I'm like, Alex,
Absolutely.
you're 15. You're still not playing.
Right.
It.
100%.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
But there are games these days, you guys, and I mean, I could list you a litany right now that are works. They're like the gaming industry and gamer culture has become, in my opinion, like this mainstream cultural thing. And there are games that are works of art.
Oh, absolutely.
I think
Skyrim is beautiful.
My Skyrim is not Skyrim. My Skyrim is a game called Dragon's Dogma. It's a much lesser known. It's by Capcom. It's just like Skyrim. It's a big open world RPG game. The mythos of this game, I'm using the word mythos correctly this time, the mythos of this game is so in-depth and so beautiful. The story of this game is so in-depth and so beautiful. When I beat this game, this has just become like my confessional hour now. Like I wept, I cried again, this time as like a 32-year-old grown man, because it was so moving and so artfully done. I was like, oh my God, that seed they planted 1 hour into my experience of this game came full circle 100 hours later, and like what intention. What beautiful like craftsmanship went into this game. So it's not anymore just like kill the Nazis, I guess, is my point.
Well, but also graphics-wise.
Yeah, the graphics are
Yeah,
incredible. And the
sure.
storytelling is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's come so far from just...
That's what I'm saying, man. Yeah, for
whatever.
Sure. Go
All right.
gamers.
Speaking of gamers, this goes into my topic, which
Sweet.
is fandoms. And it's really, really interesting. I had started doing some research on this because I knew about fandoms, being a member of a few myself. Let's see. I am a member of, just going off, where's my list? I tried to list it out. Harry Potter.
Yes.
Musical theater. That's got to be a fandom for that. I don't know what it's called.
For sure.
Doctor Who, Star Trek, Supernatural, Sherlock, American Horror Story, Game of Thrones, Wheel of Time series, and then there's probably more. Once I started listing them, I was like, oh my God, I'm such a nerd. Which I am. Right. I am. I'm a total geek. I guess there's a difference between a geek and a nerd. I don't know. What would
we've talked about that.
I don't know.
That's another thing that's changed, man.
That is true.
When we were kids, the geeks and nerds were like the kids, like getting spitballs thrown at them, and they were the ones who, if Game of Thrones existed, they would have been watching Game of Thrones. Or I was a Star Wars nerd, and that was so completely. Girls didn't like me, and the bullies targeted me. This is a real thing. These days, if I wear a Star Wars shirt, all the cute girls are like, "What's up, man? Cool." And I'm like. I
almost wore one today. So like those are just fandoms that I belong to, but it's really interesting because I started looking into it, and the way that we think of fandoms now is we think of them as this subculture within society where they're fanatics about whatever minute little detail there is about the show or book or whatever it is that they like. But in my research, I found that fandom. I'm sorry, I had to move my microphone. According to my research, a fandom can grow around any area of human interest or activity. And the first use of fandom actually dates back to 1903.
Okay.
And its roots are based in an enthusiastic appreciation for sports.
Makes sense.
So
Makes
sports
sense.
is its own fandom, which is not what you would
sports
think
nerd.
of.
Sure,
I'm more of a sports nerd than...
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you think about it, there's this overreaching fandom of sports.
Makes sense.
And then there are sub-fandoms within that. So then you've got, like, fandoms for this particular team.
Oh, yeah.
And then this particular player.
Like bowling fanatics. People who just have to go watch the Bowlers Bowl.
Well, actually, another group of...
I thought you guys were going to laugh. Is that a real fandom?
If you think about
the
it...
Big Lebowski, right?
Okay.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay, good point. Touche.
I'm going bowling tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm.
But within that, there are all of these different... There's fandoms for everything.
Oh, yeah.
They're just not necessarily called fandoms.
Right.
The oldest fandom is Sherlockians.
What?
Fans of Sherlock.
Okay.
And they're called that? Sherlockians?
That's cool.
According to what I have found, they're called Sherlockians.
Sweet.
Because fans actually would have mourning demonstration, public demonstrations of mourning. In 1893, after Sherlock was killed off in the books.
Really?
Yeah. So that is the oldest fandom. And here we've come full circle with Sherlock on BBC now, which is a fantastic show.
And people also, I think public displays of mourning now are more social media based.
Oh, absolutely.
I think, and I was actually going to ask what you thought about this, April. I feel like social media has fueled the fandom thing.
It has, because what has happened with social media is that it has actually put us in direct contact with the actors, the performers, the writers, the directors,
and
all
other
of
people
the
who
producers,
like
all
Sports
of these people,
stars.
and then other fans. And so the fact that we have this instant access to each other has actually been able to bring us together. Whereas before we would have to like read articles or things like that in the newspaper or magazines or whatever, and then you would attend a convention, and that's how you would meet other people.
Right.
Fun fact, the oldest fandom convention took place in 1939.
San Diego Comic Con 39?
Yes, exactly.
San
Diego.
Seriously?
No, it was not. It was not.
I was just going to quit this
World-
podcast.
All right, for sure.
World
Because
Science
I can't
Fiction
compete with that.
Convention was held in has been held since 1939.
People came cosplaying as H.G. Wells.
Well, but it was basically that was the first convention.
Okay,
And
that's so cool.
1939. It's been almost 100 years, but this was fans of sci-fi fiction in like the text, reading it.
Right.
And so what's really interesting is fandoms as we know them now didn't really show up in existence until the mid 70s.
With like Star Trek.
With Star Trek, Doctor Who, which aired in 1963, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. And so by the mid-70s, you could show up at a sci-fi convention and meet people who did not even read sci-fi, but who actually only viewed it on film and TV. And then they would... then they were able to connect from there. And so then it has turned into all sorts of things from there. And social media has also influenced the events on the shows themselves. The writers of Glee actually were heavily influenced by the fans.
Right.
Like I honestly stopped watching in like season 3 just because I lost interest. But apparently in season 3 or 4, they had introduced a whole new cast of characters that just did not, the fans did not respond well to. And so they ended up like just getting rid of those characters and going back to the original.
This was the same way with The Office. That
I feel like
responded in some ways to social media.
I feel like Ryan Murphy, who is the person who created Glee and American Horror Story, I feel like he's a complete master of managing the fandom. You know,
yes,
yeah, for sure.
I mean, American Horror Story. I'm a big fan of that as well.
I'm a huge
fan. And they're brilliant when it comes to the whole clues, the clues thing where they put out a series of clues that tells you what the theme of the next, season's going to be. I mean, that's directly playing to your fans.
And P.S. When Stevie Nicks showed up in Coven, I was like, okay, I'm done. Me
too, dude. That's when it jumped the shark that season.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Oh, see, not for me.
Danny, that's the Berea manager. That's his favorite season.
Yeah.
Mine too.
That is my least favorite season. Only because I love Stevie Nicks. I've seen Fleetwood Mac a couple times. I'm going to see her again in the fall.
Right.
Like, love her.
Take me
love
with
her.
You.
You can go.
All right, deal.
Love her. Love American Horror Story. Everybody in it. Sarah Paulson's one of my favorite people.
She's
absolutely
But
amazing.
then they bring Stevie Nicks out, and
actress.
I'm like, really? I mean, that is essentially Fonzie jumping.
Yeah, see, I'm not a big
but
fan. I'm not a big fan of celebrity appearances in shows, in these big fan shows. Like, spoiler alert.
Oh God, please
Yes.
go, April, do it.
Ed
Me too.
Sheeran
Me too,
in
April.
Game
Me
of
too,
Thrones
April.
on Sunday.
Ooh, why?
What is up with that?
Why?
I mean, I'm okay.
Who
Like Lady
masterminded
Gaga.
this?
Lady Gaga in Hotel.
I
in
support
American
that
Horror
fully.
She's
She's outstanding.
fantastic.
But she's not Lady Gaga.
Right.
She's whoever she's playing.
What was it, the
Right.
Duchess or the
I
Baroness
forget
or something?
already.
I
Well,
don't
Ed
remember.
Sheeran was Ed Sheeran in Lannister armor, and I'm over it. Singing.
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 Tell us how you really feel, Brandon.
I mean, I don't even watch the show and I'm mad.
Yeah, for
But,
sure.
I mean,
For sure.
I have no problem with a celebrity being on a show if it's part of the story and they actually can act.
Yes.
And I'm not saying anything about Ed Sheeran's acting ability. He didn't really have anything to say and really wasn't on camera for very long. But
Right.
if that's what you're going to do with them, then why have them? It's just distracting.
Well, and the whole like Stevie Nicks thing was so contrived, and that's also what kind of got to me. I mean, I know. Okay, so there's a video from I don't know what year, 19 whatever, when Fleetwood Mac first got together, and I feel bad that I don't know this year off the top of my head. Anyway,
a while ago,
probably like 45 years ago.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe 40. I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Well,
so
we forget
as
that
everyone
forget
knows-
that the 90s was 30 years ago.
Whoa.
No, it wasn't.
Wait.
27.
20. Easy.
Okay. All right. Almost 30.
Fleetwood
Sorry,
Mac
I'm rounding up.
video.
Fleetwood Mac, back on it.
So as everyone knows, Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham joined the band, and they put out a self-titled album. It was great and wonderful. Stevie Nicks was super young. I mean, she was like 21. So they go on this late-night TV show. I forget which one it was. And she walks out there. She and Lindsey walk out there with the rest of the band. And they start playing the song Rhiannon. But the way that she introduces the song is, this is a song about an old Welsh witch and they just launch into Rhiannon. And
Nice.
it's like the most bizarre. And I mean, they just absolutely throw down in
Nice.
this video. I mean, they're just feeling it.
Nice.
So like the whole witch thing, I mean, that's Stevie Nicks's
Right.
thing.
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
part
I mean,
of her.
she is the white
part of her
witch.
identity, right?
She
right.
is. So I understand what Ryan Murphy was trying to do with her in the show. It just did not work out for me. And then there she is. And I think she plays a few bars of Rhiannon, right? Like she's playing the piano.
She's definitely playing the
She's
piano.
playing the piano.
I
when
don't
you, when
remember
you
what
first meet her. I
she
think
was
it is
playing.
Rhiannon.
I don't
Yeah.
think she plays. I for real think she plays like the first 3 bars of the song.
I think it is. I think it is
would
Rhiannon
be,
that she plays.
If I found out that were in fact true, that would be.
Rhiannon
I'd
rings
have
like
to,
a bell in the night.
I'd have to be like, that's kind of contrived.
I think
Yeah.
that she does like the first couple lines of the song. Rhiannon rings like a bell in the night.
So isn't it
Would you
interesting
rather-
how
I probably butchered that. Please don't hold that against me.
Isn't it interesting how the deeper your fandom goes, right? So I'm a bit of a casual
Bingo.
fan of Stevie Nicks. I love Stevie Nicks. I love what she represents. I've seen Fleetwood Mac just once, but I'm not a super fan. I don't know where she was born. I don't know her middle name. You know, these kind of, I don't know all the lyrics to all of her songs, right? I wasn't able to identify the name of the song that she was playing on American Horror Story. So for me, that was like super cool. She's the White Witch.
Yeah.
Oh, I love welcome to my favorite show, Stevie Nicks. To a
Right.
super fan though, that's like, oh, that's so
And
contrived.
I think that you're dead on there,
Right?
Because I'm more of a Fleetwood Mac fan.
Okay.
I mean, I love American Horror Story, but there are some things that are super sacred, and Fleetwood Mac is one of them. You know?
Right on.
So
right on.
I would agree with that.
So if it doesn't work, it doesn't.
Right.
You know.
I'm this way
if
with
it
Star
feel-
Wars.
if it feels forced,
Sure.
then it's just distracting.
I'm this way with Star Wars, and I know our time's probably almost up, and I don't want to open up a whole other can of worms. But
we're good.
I mean, I want to say, a very, very unpopular opinion that I've been pretty dissatisfied with everything that's happened with Star Wars since Return of the Jedi in 1981 or two, I think in 1981. But especially The Force Awakens was one of the grossest rehashes of fan nostalgia that I've ever seen. Like I could go on and on and on.
What was it that you didn't like about
Oh
it
my
specifically?
goodness! Specifically,
Not like don't give me a list.
sure.
You know, but,
specifically,
you know, what, like,
yeah. I mean,
was there like one overreaching theme?
in 3 sentences or less, I could say what I didn't like about The Force Awakens was the fact that it was a retread of A New Hope in so many ways, and it played almost shamelessly. No, it played totally shamelessly on our nostalgia. South Park has this great amazing social critics, Matt Stone and Trey Parker, right?
Yes.
They have this great
Perhaps the best
concept
of our time.
that they call member berries, right? And the member berries,
Berries?
the member berries are these literal little cartoon berries. They look like they're grapes, but they're sentient. They talk and they say, "Hey, everybody, remember Chewbacca?
Yeah.
Remember the Millennium Falcon? Do you remember?
Yeah.
Do you remember?" And it's satire, but what they're satirizing is the fact that we are kind of addicted to nostalgia, and I think that's what The Force Awakens represents. Another prime culprit for this, in my opinion, is Jurassic World. Jurassic World was nothing but...
Oh man! So
It's
Mark
your
is like
favorite
about to fall out of his
song.
chair.
It's your
I love
favorite
it.
song.
He's
Don't
got some-
remember.
I don't know.
You love this song
I
in
don't know if
1993.
I love.
Mark.
I did love Jurassic World though.
Hold up,
I
Mark.
did.
Give me a thumbs up or thumbs down that you agree. Agree. Okay, good.
Agree with
Well, I mean,
Brandon.
not
All right,
but
Mark
yeah,
is
yeah.
agreeing. All right.
All
Thanks,
right,
Mark.
all right.
So
all right.
I could
never
go
We're
on and
gonna
on and on.
agree to
Mark.
disagree on these because
I've not
I
seen it. I'm
loved-
terrible.
You haven't seen
Oh,
Star
it
Wars:
is-
The
it
Force
is-
Awakens?
Oh no, I have seen that.
But you have
Gotcha.
not seen Jurassic World?
No.
It's
We'll just
I
go
love
watch
Jurassic
Jurassic
Park.
Park,
I felt-
Cece, and you
no,
watch
it is
Jurassic
not
World.
like that. All right, I'm also a part of the Jurassic Park fandom. I got to enlist that one.
I feel it. I feel it in your,
Yeah,
in your,
I know.
in your
I'm
voice
like,
right
my
now. That's
hackles
great.
are raised. I'm
That's
like,
awesome.
Actually,
no.
you're red. Like your face is red.
Well, it's also really warm in here.
It is warm in here. Lots
But yeah,
of hot
like,
air.
I'm like, no. I do love Jurassic Park. Like I've read the books.
too,
I've
for
seen
sure.
The movies.
Me too.
And I love them. Now, number 3, we don't speak of that.
We definitely
Not
don't.
sure- we don't speak of that one.
The dream sequence in the airplane with the raptor that goes, Alan.
Alan.
Okay, we don't speak about that.
Yeah, we just
Yeah.
don't speak of number 3. It's the one that it's the movie that shall not be named.
Right.
And then
Agreed. Agreed.
But then Jurassic World, I did love it, and I liked it because I felt that they paid homage to the original movie while continuing to tell their own story.
I'm happy you feel that way.
So I
And
have
I
a
don't mean
question.
for that to sound sarcastic or disingenuous.
I have a
I am
question
happy
for
you
you
feel
all.
that way.
Okay.
Do you think that there's no original ideas anymore? Because everything that happens is basically a reinvention of something that's already happened. And I think that's probably the case throughout time. But I mean, nostalgia, as you were talking about it, I wrote it down because it's something that I wanted to talk about anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like maybe our age group is really nostalgic, maybe at this point in our lives, for things that
I think that
happened
definitely
in the 80s and 90s.
I think that is definitely what is going on, because
sure.
the people in our age group are the people who are now becoming the writers and the directors and the producers.
Right.
And so we are the ones who are have the decision-making power to be able to bring these things from our childhood back to life.
Right. And we're also in that age group that studios want to target because we
go
and do
about to
things.
say,
Well,
and
and we've got, people in our age group have all of them, we're making all of the money and we're spending all of the money.
Yeah.
We've got,
Yeah. I want to interject, if I may, and I'm going to use this is going to sound a bit cynical, perhaps, but that can just be my role. I know that could just be my role. It probably will continue to be my role. The Goosebumps film. Do you guys remember the Goosebumps film? It was about a year ago.
Yeah, I've
Jack
seen
Black played R.L. Stine. Okay,
which we met.
Okay,
we met R.L.
We did
Stine.
meet R.L.
Yeah.
Stine. It was super cool, and
I
he was
still
so
have a text
funny.
on my phone that is to one of my colleagues that was on the KPLA conference committee.
Right.
And it just says, R.L. Stine is waiting for you at the check-in desk.
Did you
Save
Did you
that.
reply with Ermagerd?
I cannot erase that text because it's just
You
so
need to
cool.
make a copy of that,
Yeah.
from your phone and just frame it.
I'm
R.L.
just like,
Stein is
how
waiting
bizarre
for you.
is that?
So
Anyway.
the
Hi,
Goosebumps
Bob.
movie. So the Goosebumps movie happened. It was this very high production value, big budget Hollywood film. Jack Black, special effects, blah blah blah. And I don't know how well it did at the box office. I don't think it did great at the box office, but it got made anyway. Why did it get made? Because we 30-somethings, this generation, I think we all here in
We're
the
all about the
podcast
same age.
Yeah.
speaking are about the same age.
Yeah.
I think we're within
Like
we're
a
all
year.
within
Yeah.
Right.
3 years of each
We're
other.
the ones who are spending the money, right? So you're not going to see a Bonanza movie. You're not going to see a Gunsmoke movie. You're not going to see, right?
But I feel like when we were kids, again, this is probably the case for every single generation.
Right.
Because when we were kids, I feel like maybe there was, maybe not an exact Bonanza movie, but
But
they
it was
remade Dukes of
happening
Hazzard, right?
for
they
like a-
did like a Dukes of Hazzard
Sure,
movie
sure,
when
sure.
we were
Sure.
16, 17, 18 years
That's
old.
true. That's true.
So
for people a little bit older who
Right.
would be nostalgic for the Dukes
Right.
of Hazzard, right?
So maybe all the things that were cool in the late 60s, 1970s, that got remade when we were teenagers, and now the things that were cool when we were kids are getting remade now.
So
I'd say for the most part that's right. But one very notable exception, especially for this year's Emmy season, is Westworld.
Yeah, Westworld's cool.
It
Okay.
is
I haven't seen it yet.
amazing.
I really wanna
finished
watch
Did
it.
you-
Yeah.
I will not give you any spoilers. I've seen the entire series twice.
Is it good? That good?
It is that
You
good.
almost have to
Okay.
watch it twice.
You do. You really
'Cause
do.
you miss
Watching
so
it
many
the second
things.
time, because you know all of the big twists and everything, and so then you go back and you watch it, and you're like, oh my gosh.
Okay.
Oh, this makes so much sense now.
Okay.
It's fantastic.
I love Anthony Hopkins.
But would you believe that it's actually based off of a film that was written and directed by Michael Crichton
You're
in
right.
the 70s?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Full circle.
Shock and surprise,
What
Michael
film?
Crichton,
Do-
Westworld.
Okay, in
yeah,
the 70s.
Shock and surprise, Michael Crichton wrote a film about an amusement park.
All right.
Anyway.
He's still writing books somehow. Didn't he die in the late 90s?
Yeah.
No, it was
early
recent.
2000s. Yeah,
It
it
was
was
more
like-
recent.
It was
Okay.
like
Yeah.
within the last, I think it was like 5 years ago.
Okay,
something
okay,
Of course,
okay.
I think that things happened last year, and they really happened in like 1998.
Right on,
So
for
Well,
sure.
You know, that's true.
I'm
That is
actually
very,
gonna
very
find
true.
out when he passed away.
But Westworld, and I've seen the original movie because I became obsessed with this show. It is
Okay.
so good.
Okay, I
Yeah,
really,
it
really
really
need
is
to watch
It
it.
is
yeah.
that good. Yes,
Cool.
please watch it.
Cool.
Please watch it and let me know what you
We
think.
have
because-
HBO
And I'm
Go
not like a
just for
big
Game of
science
Thrones,
fiction
so
See, and it's on there.
Yeah,
It's
right,
on there because
right.
that's how I watched it.
sweet.
Yeah, he died in 2008, so it's been like 10 years.
Almost 10 years ago. I was like within the last 10 years. See, yeah, yesterday, right?
Well, it was
Right.
like last year.
It's like last week. But Westworld is one very notable exception to that because it's phenomenal. And so I've seen the original movie, and it has Yul Brynner is in it as the Man in Black. And I don't want to give any spoilers.
James Marsden's in it.
Is he?
Well, James Marsden is in
He's
in the
dreaming.
remake. James
Gotcha.
Marsden
Okay.
is dreaming.
Because when
He's
you're talking about,
dreaming.
Yul
I was
Brynner was
like,
in
hold
the
on.
original
I don't remember
movie.
Yul Brynner being in the series Westworld, and I think
Yeah.
he might be dead.
Yes.
Google it.
He is. But like the cast is for Westworld is fantastic. You've got Evan Rachel Wood as
I
Dolores.
love her also.
You've
It's true
got
for
James
sure.
Marsden as oh my God, what is his name? I've completely blanked.
Yes, he died in '85. Not James Marsden.
Not James Marsden.
Thank God.
Mr. Yul Brynner.
Yeah, Teddy. James Marsden plays Teddy.
Okay.
And then you've got Anthony Hopkins, and you've got Ed Harris, and you've got
Ed Harris. That's who it is.
Ed
I was trying to think who
Harris.
plays
So
him.
Ed Harris is the Man in Black in the remake, and Yul Brynner was the Man in Black in the original movie. And they're completely different characters.
What's that lady's name?
But I like
Tandy.
Newman.
Yes.
Yes,
she is also wonderful.
She is also in it.
Tandy
and wonderful.
Newton.
Yes. I knew it started with an N.
I'm sorry, Tandy Newton.
So I guess the listeners of our podcast are all going to go out and get DUIs and then watch Westworld. I think it's kind of the...
That's not the takeaway.
Definitely not the takeaway.
Change your name to Dewey by all means.
Yeah,
please don't get a DUI.
Right.
Yeah,
it
just
really
to be clear.
just don't change it to DUI. That's probably not. Probably not a good idea.
But yeah, Westworld is amazing.
I'm inspired to watch
Westworld
favorite. For sure.
It's probably my favorite show that has come out, and I binge watched it back to back.
And you're a Game of Thrones fan,
huh?
You're a Game of Thrones fan.
I am a Game of Thrones fan.
And you like Westworld better than Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh man.
Yes. I am Game of Thrones is my favorite
fired.
thing
yes,
right now.
I do. I like shots. I like shots fired. What? I do like Westworld better than Game of Thrones.
Okay.
I think that the storytelling in Westworld is more concise and more and more well done. Simply because there are. There's not as large of a cast of characters.
True.
In season 1 of Westworld, at least. I mean, that's all that's out right now. You've got this massive amusement park where the hosts are. I will say, Westworld is definitely not family friendly.
It is not at all.
Not at all.
Not in any way.
Okay.
It's almost not adult friendly. It's a lot.
You know, honestly, it's probably more violent than Game of Thrones,
and
like
it
definitely has
Tale.
more nudity than Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the story, it's not even. It's not distracting. Like sometimes it's just superfluous, and you're just like, this is not even necessary. But the way that it's used for the story, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because you've got these hosts, which are like 3D printed robots,
Right.
that look like real humans,
right.
But they're hosts. And so the way that it's used, it's just that they're actually referred to as livestock.
Right.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And the
Cool.
psyche behind it becomes the more interesting storyline than the actual violence.
Absolutely. The violence is just like, I mean, the violence is they're shooting these hosts,
right?
robots.
They're not real.
They're
my
not
impression is
real.
it's like
But that's the whole question.
Well,
is, are
true.
they alive?
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And
So
they passed the it says that they passed the Turing test at 1 year.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like a Deus Ex Machina kind of an idea. It's
Yeah.
like the Island, the Michael Bay, Scarlett Johansson, Ewan McGregor are their clones, right? Being used to harvest organs for their super rich real world counterparts, but they're sentient, they're conscious. Do they have a heart? Do they have a soul? It's like the Matrix and all of these
It's a
ideas.
similar storyline.
It's a very similar idea. Yeah, you definitely
love
need to watch it.
philosophical stuff like
You'll
that.
love it.
Cool.
I really think you'll love it.
Cool.
But I think we are pretty much out of time.
I want to
barely
make an
touched-
admission
Huh?
super quickly.
Okay.
So you said the Harry Potter was one of your fandoms.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just tell you,
Don't
I've
say
never
it.
read a Harry Potter book.
Don't
Have you
say
seen
it.
the movies?
I've seen the movies.
Okay. All right. Well, I will at least forgive you that
Okay.
much.
I've
Seriously.
tried. I have a hard time with things that aren't expressly real.
Mm-hmm.
I have to find some sense of reality in like fantasy or science fiction. So like the Westworld thing,
Mm-hmm.
it took me a minute, but I found my way to enjoy the show.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, with the Harry Potter stuff, I didn't really get into the storyline until like the last few movies.
Okay. Right on.
Just because, again,
Well, it's almost like, you know how another fandom, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Big
you know,
fandom.
you've got
which the movie I loved back in the day, from like '93.
Luke Perry and Christy
Wow.
Swanson. Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Right
Wow.
on. Me too.
But Buffy, you've got Monster of the Week.
Right.
Right.
You know, and it's almost like the earlier, and I am a huge Harry Potter fan, so don't crucify me for this, guys. But it's almost like the earlier books are just Monster of the Week, but the monster is always Voldemort.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah,
bring it
that's
around,
true.
but then in the end, it's more about the adventure, and so like then they're going to find the Horcruxes and all of these things.
Sure.
And so they're like trying to find to ultimately defeat him. So it's almost like in season 1 of Buffy, they've got the Master that they've got to defeat.
Right.
And so like at the beginning you've got Monster of the Week, Monster of the Week, Monster of the Week, and then by the end of the season they're trying to beat the big boss,
like a bigger storyline.
The bigger storyline,
yeah.
and so that's kind of what it was like. So I can see how earlier in the earlier books you're not really getting into it, but then by the end, because by then you've got all of this background information, and you've got Snape.
No. I know, and like I'm not saying I didn't cry.
Oh, I did.
No, I did.
I totally did.
I was into it enough to where I'm not a crier, but with movies, if they get to me, I will definitely.
This
shed
is
a few tears.
didn't really happen very well. I mean, it happened in the movie, but you didn't really get the full actual event in the movie. But in the in the Battle for Hogwarts, when Hagrid gets overrun by the spiders and he's taken out into the woods. In the book, I was reading this, and I thought Hagrid was dead.
No.
I threw my book. I was so mad. I threw my book. I was like, no.
Rowling, why?
No. I did. I threw my book. I had a stronger reaction to that than any other death, and I'm just, man, it is so hard not to give spoilers.
Yeah.
Could we dedicate our next podcast to how awesome of a human being J.K. Rowling is?
I was just
like in
that.
the world and all the amazing things. All of her amazing tweets.
Dibs on that topic.
Okay, very good. It's all you.
And just like giving all her money away.
For sure. I mean, like really.
Yeah.
Right. And like fighting the good fight for people who are deserving.
Mm-hmm.
Right, this is how big of a Potterhead, which apparently is the name of the Harry Potter fandom. Unless you're not a member of it, and then you just call them potheads.
Right. That's what I've always said.
Yep. But Potterheads, this is how big of a fan I am. We took the kids to Universal Studios for Christmas a few years ago.
Jelly.
Oh, my gosh.
So jelly.
I walked into the Hogsmeade area and started crying.
Nice. All right.
I am sure you're not the only person who's
I
done
know
that.
I'm not the only
So
person, but seriously, I started crying.
Our time together today is over. I have to ask you, Cece. I cried with Nintendo twice. You cried, April, with Harry Potter. What's the Nerd Factor fandom thing that's brought you to tears?
This is so embarrassing. So, I am a huge Kentucky basketball fan.
Right on.
I know that
that's your fandom.
like everybody
right.
is, basically.
That's your Nerd Factor, man.
That's my thing.
Yeah.
Like, I have friends, and we'll talk about games that were played in like 1978. Just trading facts and stuff like that. But there's a problem.
There's a problem
that everybody's discussing. It looks
very,
very serious.
Very serious discussion. Very, very serious.
Oh, Mark is talking about a time that he cried.
Oh! Are
Brandon,
you
I think
share?
I'm going to stop talking about Kentucky basketball for just a minute because I want to know what Mark's crying episode was.
Cried about Star Wars Episode 1 on his way out of the theater, and I'm pretty sure it was Jar Jar Binks that did it.
Listen, I have refused to even watch it, so I'm with you.
Sure.
He's
about to cry right now. I'm pretty sure.
There.
So, mine's still worse.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, like I'm a huge fan. I went to school there. My whole family loves Kentucky basketball. It's like a big thing. We used to watch basketball games at my grandparents' house around the giant TV. Mm-hmm. Giant as in like it was a furniture piece.
Did they have rabbit ears with aluminum foil?
No, because I think they had cable. I don't know.
So disappointed.
They might have.
Guys. I had rabbit ears with aluminum foil on it at my house.
Maybe there were rabbit ears. I don't remember. I was really little.
We lived at the bottom of the hill, though. But anyway.
Kenny, Skywalker was like my, I was like, oh my gosh, that's the kind of player I want to be, me being 5'5" and a girl. But yeah, so
dream big,
anyway,
literally.
Like, I remember it's just been a big thing in my life,
Yeah.
So I go to games and I get a little teary
when
they're doing like the opening video and stuff. And by a little teary, I mean actual tears falling from my eyes.
Do you ugly cry though?
I don't. Well, I have ugly cried when they have lost.
Okay.
And that's something that's difficult for me to admit because again, I'm an adult woman. Mm-hmm. But like when they lost to Wisconsin in the Final Four, the year that they should have been 40-0, I'm still not over that. I mean,
How long ago was that?
That was 2015, I guess?
So just a few years ago.
Yeah. It might have been, I think it was 2015. I don't remember.
So it was 2015. It's still raw. It's
going to be raw for a while because we just should have won that game. But it's not like, oh, I'm mad because we lost. It's just, I feel so, it's just like a defeated feeling that I can't describe because it should not affect me on the personal level that it does. But man, like it just gets to me.
I understand that.
I'm really moved to ask, what's the more embarrassing admission, though? Crying because of a sports team that you love so much, that you've grown up with, but, its members that you identify with, the alma mater that you love so much, or a 34-year-old man in front of his TV crying because a dragon that doesn't exist actually in real life at all sacrificed himself for the player that he'd been playing for the past 100 hours, which is what I did. So, just a little perspective, my friend.
Wow.
It's a real thing.
Okay.
His name was Grigori, and he was a very awesome dragon.
Here's something that I think we can connect, though. I get moved by sports, and again, this is so... I can't believe I'm saying this to other people, but I get moved by sports because people from ordinary backgrounds and ordinary... situations are able to do extraordinary things.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And to me, that's just, it's so, like, it's so much the human condition to watch that and to watch people do great things and, succeed. I love that.
Sure.
So I think that maybe you might have been moved in similar fashion by a beautiful
story that was very meaningful. Yes. It spoke to deeper parts of me than just a virtual dragon on a TV. I was being a little reductionistic. Yes, for sure.
Well, and absolutely. That's
but
I
still cried a lot.
That's the same thing for me. Now, granted,
I'm going to cry right now.
I'm a redhead, by the way, so I like to tell people I have no soul. But the truth is...
Ed Sheeran on Game of Thrones.
right. That's why he's there.
Sorry.
But anyway, so, I just finished... Last weekend, I was in a show, and we had our final... The final performance, and people are crying backstage, and I'm like, I'm good. I'm good, y'all. But earlier that same day... the day before, I had gone with... my husband, my daughter, and my best friend, and we had gone to see the Falsettos at the Kentucky Theater. It was a recording from Broadway that they were broadcasting, and I love the story. It's a fantastic story. The music is great. The performance was phenomenal, but I knew how it ended, and I knew what was coming, and so from a certain point on in Act 2, I just started Braden and I started ugly crying.
Yeah,
we're sitting there in the seat in the middle of the theater, ugly crying through the entire second act because we knew what was happening and what was coming. One of the characters dies, but the story.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, the music is so well done. The acting was fantastic, but the story, and that's what really resonates. Really resonates.
It's that human element, man.
It is.
And something.
Exactly.
Here at the end of the podcast, I got to say, even Jurassic World and Star Wars: The Force Awakens touch into that human element for some people. I'm sure. I love you guys.
Shut up. Shut up.
So I think it's so funny.
Just get out.
I think it's so funny that we started this whole thing talking about Melville Dewey and sort of what a weird, not so great person he was. Mm-hmm. And now we're ending with talking about things we cried about.
Interesting.
But they're because the
bummer,
things that we love.
Bummer.
Yeah. So sorry guys, we started on a downer.
Well, also I just want to say, you might be wondering how in the world is a library podcast about all the random things that we talked about.
Good question.
But one of the things that the three of us have talked about, and Mark, the four of us, is that
Mark,
our jobs,
partner.
There's so much variety.
Oh my God.
I mean, the library there's so... Every day's different. And
absolutely.
Everything that you find here leads you to something else.
Absolutely.
Which is
cool. We talked about different fandoms and things, and I couldn't even tell you how many things we have out there on the shelf.
Literally everything that you said.
Literally everything.
Literally everything that you said.
Actually, it's literally everything we've said the entire podcast.
100%.
Yeah, we have
things
that relate to these topics on
if
the
you
shelf.
Want to cry. We have stuff that'll make you cry.
It's true. If you want Jurassic World, I'm going to go check it out myself right now and keep it at my home and pay the fee that I need to pay to purchase it so that you don't have to be subject to it. But other than that...
I'll just put in a request.
P.S. We would never do that.
Sorry, oops.
P.S. Don't do that.
Never mind.
Have to be unfun for a second and be like, no, dude, no.
That's when you become the librarian that nobody likes.
It's true.
Or the one that's out of a job.
One of those two things.
Says the boss.
So everybody, come on to the library and grab your DVDs, including but not limited to Jurassic World. It's a great time.
And Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
Star Wars: The Four Jamaicans. Come on down.
Four Jamaicans. I'm not even sure I can follow up.
I don't know. Anyway, we'll see you next time, guys. It's been fun.
Yeah. Keep following along. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.